Okay, Ryan, you were on Capitol Hill yesterday. You were following, literally, the drama and all the dynamics. What have you got for us on this shutdown that is definitely coming up?
So we're headed for a government shutdown on Saturday, even though a majority of Republicans in the Senate on Tuesday voted to move forward on a bipartisan spending bill to keep it open. That's because a group of House Republicans is refusing to let anything come to the floor that can pass into law, basically guaranteeing a shutdown. In doing so, they're following the orders of former President Donald Trump, even though it's clear Republicans will get blamed for it and take a political hit. The only person who could benefit, actually, besides Joe Biden from this, is Donald Trump, who is facing multiple federal indictments that he's been working hard to delay past the election. The federal courts can stay open for about 2 weeks thanks to the fees they collect, but after that, they'd have to shut down, gumming everything up and throwing the court calendar into chaos. Now, Republicans spent Tuesday evening jawing at each other. Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, one of the Republican firebrands leading the shutdown charge, to his credit, had the night's best joke. Let me hand the mic to him.
We are devaluing American money so rapidly that in America today, you can't even bribe Democrat senators with cash alone. You need to bring gold bars to get the job done, just so that the bribes hold value.
All right, that was pretty good. He also lashed out at Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Twitter, calling him, quote, pathetic for a paid advocacy campaign Gaetz said had attempted to pay Republican influencers to trash talk Gaetz and his shutdown effort. McCarthy issued a cease and desist order to a consulting firm, which appears to be, or is accused of being at least Democratic. Emily knows more about this than me, and we'll sort this one out in a minute, maybe. But the Gaetz-McCarthy drama continued. Now, here's McCarthy getting asked about him.
Matt Gaetz made another threat to your speakership on the House floor today. Are you worried at all that to bring up a CR? I mean, what do you make of the threats? He's made them for quite a while. Do you?
Have you seen Matt and what he said about me when we first started this? Look, people have got to get over personal differences. I'm focused on America. I think that's where America's looking right now as well. He never voted for me to start out with. I don't assume he's changing his position. He said a lot of things, and we waited through. The one thing I will always tell you is I'm never going to give up on America, and that's where my focus is going to be. If somebody has a personal difference with me, that's fine. They have the right to say it. They have the right to do it. Do whatever they can.
Has that distracted this process, though, when he keeps hammering you on this? Is that a problem? I mean, he comes out every day with a little more pushing the envelope.
Does it look like it bothers me?
Well, that's why I'm asking you.
No. If it doesn't.
But is that distracting from this whole issue to fund the government, address?
No, but it seems to do something for you.
Well, no.
Now, I don't think people quite have a grasp of how thoroughly absurd the Freedom Caucus position is on a government shutdown, and it's not even the entire Freedom Caucus. Now, I know it sounds like I'm speaking from a partisan perspective here or saying that I disagree with their approach, but what I'm trying to say is that what they're doing isn't wrong, it's just completely insane. So to put it simply, Republicans previously agreed to a very specific deal to fund the government. They have not made any serious demands or proposed any way forward that would keep the government open, yet they are still pushing for a shutdown. They can't even pass a bill through their own chamber that would fund the government. They're not even proposing big changes to federal spending because they already took that off the table during Biden's State of the Union.
Some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion.
So with Medicare and Social Security off the table, that's left Republicans nibbling at the edges. Now, perhaps it seems like too long ago, but this whole thing was already worked out in May. Biden and McCarthy, as you'll recall, sat down to craft a deal to avert a default and a global financial crisis. The deal was straightforward, and it was announced publicly. The debt ceiling would be lifted until January 2025, so a lame duck Congress coincidentally can lift it again. Discretionary and military spending for the next fiscal year would be capped at $1.59 trillion, $886 billion for the war-making folks and $704 billion for the rest. So all of this has already been hashed out. As Hank Williams Jr. would put it, it's all over but the crying. Now, the holdouts are calling for budget numbers several $100 billion below what was already agreed on, which is fine, that's their right, but it doesn't mean anybody should listen to them. So today, McCarthy suggested he needs another meeting with Biden, which the White House quickly rejected, noting they already cut a deal and his problem is with Matt Gaetz and that crew, not with the White House. Now, AOC suggested McCarthy be told to, quote, pound sand, which is actually one of my favorite cliches out there. Meanwhile, these votes are a trap for Republicans because they'll never be good enough for the most ardent conservatives, and they'll include draconian cuts and extreme social policy that will then be used against moderate Republicans running in Biden districts. Here's how the Washington Post framed the latest proposed cuts. Quote, cutting housing subsidies for the poor by 33% as soaring rents drive a national affordability crisis, forcing more than 1 million women and children onto the wait list of a nutritional assistance program for poor mothers with young children, reducing federal spending on home heating assistance for low-income families by more than 70% with energy prices high heading into the winter months, unquote. That's not just terrible for people, it's terrible politics. Now, once that theater is over, the only option will be a normal, clean, bipartisan CR. The Senate voted 77-19 to move forward on a CR yesterday evening to keep the government open another 47 days. But they also added some $6 billion for Ukraine and another $6 billion for disaster relief, and House Republican holdouts want nothing to do with that Ukraine money. Now, here's where McCarthy faces a choice. He can prevent the Senate bill, which has the support of Mitch McConnell and a host of Republicans, from coming to the floor. His right-wing rebels have said that if he passes it with Democratic votes, they'll depose him. And they might, but A, they don't have an alternative who could get 218 votes, and B, Democrats could vote to save him, which would be C, absolutely hilarious. So what result?
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.